not necessarily tribal or regional.
Welcome back to Daybreak on Trust TV. Well, now we're going straight to check out the headlines on the newspapers of this morning, and we begin with Daily Trust newspaper. It carries this major headline on the front page: condemnations as NBC fines Trust TV 5 million naira over banditry documentary. And the riders here, they say DSTV, Star Times, TSTV also fined. We acted in public interest, trust management, and activists academic flay government. That is the major headline on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. At the bottom of the page there, insecurity, Air Chief orders maximum firepower against terrorists. And two riders here, IGP summons police commanders, and DHQ upgrades intelligence management system. Other headlines on the front page of Daily Trust read: bandits shoot AIG, kill orderly in Kaduna. Details of that on page 37. FG justifies purchase of 1.5 billion naira vehicles for Niger Republic. Details also on page 5. Wife seeks divorce, accuses hubby of hiding inside toilet during robbery attack. Details of that can be found on page 20. Just below the masthead, Northerners in fear as IPOB kills 8 Nigerians in Imo, cuts away head. That is on page 31. PDP crisis, close ranks with Wike, BOT tells Atiku. And funding forex crisis, ground indigenous vessels. That is on page 22. Now, these are the major headlines on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
We are moving on to Blueprint newspaper. Blueprint newspaper, the major headline on Blueprint, it's 1 week after Buhari attack. FCTA hits bandit hideout in Kuje Forest. Reclaim market. With the riders there, situation threatening, nowhere to hide, Senate tells security chiefs. We are not leaving anything to chance, the CDS tells Senate Irabon. Gunmen attack AIG's convoy, kill oddly in Kaduna community. No release of passengers, no resumption of Abuja-Kaduna train service. That is the Nigerian Railway Corporation. And FEC OK's 2.6 billion security vehicles equipment for FCT. You'll find these details on page 6, page 23, and page 5. You have also a major headline there below the nameplate. INEC has no preferred candidates, says Yakubu. That is ahead of the 2023 election, says Ekiti. Osun Post, testimony to improve technology. Akinse George San raises concern over election expense. You'll find the details of that story on page 6. And other headlines there, we have oil theft responsible for low output, says Shell. And PDP BOT sets up committee to reconcile Wike, Atiku, and others. And other headlines there, we have organ harvest in Ekwere Madu returns to court after 42 days in detention. Ways and means, FG pays 405 billion interest to CBN in 4 months. And recuperating Oshibanjo joins FEC meeting virtually. And we also have insecurity, why we purchased 1.4 billion vehicles for Niger Republic. That's according to the federal government. These are the major headlines from the Blueprint newspapers this morning.
All right, so at this moment we will take a look at the headlines that we've just actually reeled out. And of course, we have Mala Hamza right here in the studio to give us insights as to these headlines. The major headline on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper. NBC finds Trust TV 5 million over banditry documentary. What does that say about press freedom?
Well, good morning all.
Good morning.
Yes, it was really shocking, but not surprising. And I don't want to go beyond what the management said, because Nigerians have spoken for us, which is the most important thing. As far as the management of the company is concerned, we are studying what the NBC said, because it cited some sections of the broadcasting code and then used them to now justify the decision to sanction the network. But you can see the outpour of support. And you know, God has his ways of doing things. The Trust TV is really maybe the latest baby, serious TV organization. It's the latest. Many Nigerians here and others around the world, they don't even know that we exist. This is one. And then, secondly, many people did not even watch the video in the first instance. But immediately when the sanction came, now people started trooping to, you know, start time to now have a look at, and then our YouTube and all that, to now have a look at the documentary. And, you know, there are serious Nigerians across the divide. Many of them now watched the documentary from the first line to the last clip, and then they commented. In fact, there are some who called and said this is the first time that they understand the complexity and the enormity of the problem in the Northwest. So I think it's a blessing in disguise for us, because the goodwill is really unprecedented. But as I said earlier, it's not really surprising, because we had similar, we are glad that this time they didn't invade the premises. You know, when we did a similar report for the paper, at that time we don't have the television on, even though not on this magnitude, happenings in the Lake Chad region. You know, first they said we were lying, but we remain on the story that terrorists were actually amassing weapons and all that on the shores of the Lake Chad with intention to attack Baga and other places. They dismissed the story, but we remain on it because we know that we serve the public. And then it happened. They attacked Baga and adjoining villages. Women started trekking, some delivering on the road to Maiduguri. We reported, they turned, because that time it was just the paper. But at the end of the day, it happened. And then when we reported that, okay, they are planning to now recover some of the territories taken over by terrorists, they said we are jeopardizing national security. And they invaded this house, took away all our equipment, many laptops, desktops, and all that. The company lost, you know, tens of millions to replenish those things that we are catered out, even though they brought them back. But what can you do with them? So the Zamfara incident, or the Northwest incident, you see, the company invested heavily to now tell the government, the security agencies, and the international community that, look, we have a humanitarian crisis. And it's not a one-off thing, because we took a very long time to do an exhaustive research and to talk to every other person. There is no missing link in that documentary.
I would ask you to hold your thoughts there, Malam Hamza. We are also now being joined via Zoom by a public affairs commentator from Maiduguri, Mr. Mukhtar Suleiman. Mr. Mukhtar Suleiman, it's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to actually be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Taking this narrative from somebody who is external to the organization, I would like your views on the fines by the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission shortly after the Minister of Information, gave that indication on what they called, publicity of banditry activity. What's your own view of what has happened? The fine on Daily Trust, DSTV, Star Times, and TSTV for showcasing that documentary.
It's actually very funny to me, precisely because I would, as a mass communication student and someone who is practicing communications, I would remember that back when we were in school, we're told that there are normative theories of the press, which argues how a press should organize, operate depending on the system of government where it finds itself. And for most of us, we were of the position that we operate around the social responsibility theory, which argues that media should be fair, just, and should also be like a fourth estate of the realm and checkmate the government as much as possible. But media should hold itself to high esteem and high standards. So without external influence, the government should not sanction or decide what content should be for the media. So media by itself should be the one to regulate itself. Hence, the NBC, the operations of the NBC. Since I saw that report, and I also saw the letter that was sent to Trust TV. I've been quite occupied where I am currently, and I've been trying to see how I could understand how that particular. I remember I watched a large part of the documentary the day it came out, but I didn't finish it, and I've been trying to understand where the Trust TV actually broke any of the sections that was highlighted by the NBC. I find it often very disconcerting that for every time the media should put a spotlight on issues that have to do with security, NBC comes with section 3.1.1. It's so funny because that is not in any way inciting crimes or violence in society, because I remember that's what, if I remember correctly, that's what that section says. And it's not in any way inciting crime. This is the media actually saying we need to do something about this, we need to fix this issue, and it is very important that we do that. So I think that needs to be corrected. The NBC cannot be a repressive tool for the government. It's like what the NBC is doing basically is like saying that we see ASU come around to shut down its lecturers or its members. So it doesn't make sense. NBC is a regulatory body, we understand, for the media operations, because we understand the sensitivity of the media, but it cannot be a repressive tool as well. We need to actually check that, and it was really, really unsettling for me when I saw that, and I'm hoping that in due time, this issue can actually be sorted.
All right. Well, still staying with you, I posed a question earlier. These fines or this action that was taken by the NBC to fine these platforms for showcasing this documentary, what does it say generally for press freedom? Because I believe now there are maybe other media organizations or other platforms will be a bit apprehensive when it comes to this kind of reporting. Does it bode well for the press freedom in Nigeria? I mean, like, we are in a democracy, aren't we?
Yes, we are. I don't know how, I'm not really certain yet on how Trust TV intends to go forge ahead in addressing this issue, to what extent they're willing to take it, and what the nuances in the back door, because sometimes there are always these conversations that are really happening that we don't know about. But I think this case sets a precedence. I am hoping that whatsoever court this case goes to, NBC should be able, Trust TV will be able to win the case, so it sets precedence for other media organizations. However, this is not to say that, this is not to say that media should not be socially responsible in terms of their actions and what they're doing. But for this particular case, in its peculiarity, I don't think it has anything to do with most of the sections that they mentioned in the letter. And in terms of press freedom, I think this is when all of media needs to band together, and everybody needs to come together and speak up against this categorically. And I think if media should do that, it's going to go a long way in ensuring that this doesn't happen again, and ensuring that we protect the freedom of the press in its entirety, because we're going to the general elections. What are you telling the media to do? To be censored? Are you trying to? There's so many pieces working together right now, and I'm hoping that this can actually be sorted as soon as possible because it's very, very important going forward. It speaks a lot about where media stands in issues like this and what they should do when these kind of things come up.
Thank you. Coming back to Mala Hamza in the studio, Muchar talked about the need for the media to rally and in unison condemn what has happened. But what do you think? Does it just stop at condemning it? Isn't this a case, that they should be interested in joining, understanding fully well that when they succeed with one, it will definitely be the turn of another person going forward?
Yes, I think that should be the direction that people, media houses should really speak out and then talk to people. You see, let me tell you something. This documentary, it was in March, but nothing was done. April, May, June, July. It was 4 months. So it's quite unusual. Maybe there must be a trigger somewhere. And as a reporter, I know that government, they have a way of distracting attention. When they are overwhelmed, they now deliberately create something to now push the attention of people. So I see, honestly, on a personal level, because before the airing of the documentary, there was a review. The company organized a review with our partners, and then the documentary was played, including security operatives were there, CSOs were there, media partners were there, intellectuals were there. They critique the documentary. It's not really, a very simple issue. The company invested heavily for the sake of Nigeria. After they review everything, they now made some observations, and then those areas were cleared, and then we aired it. We spoke to the victims. We spoke to the villains, right? We now spoke to leaders of those communities, including traditional rulers, and then politicians like Senator Seydou and Sadao. And then we went to the universities and spoke to experts like Professor Sadiq at Ahmadu Bello University, who studied, the problem. And then Professor Dr. Murtala also of Usman Danfodio University. So what are we talking about? I can assure you that there is no media organization in the world that would not play this if it meant well for the citizens. So we hope to continue getting the solidarity because we already have it, and that is the most important thing, because people come, government comes and then go, leaders, also come and go, and then even the practitioners. We are all not going to be here one day, but if we set the right tone, those who will come and take over will remain on that sound footing. But by the time the media drill simply to please somebody, you are now just writing off your chances of survival, because most likely when there is change in government or change in dynamics, people will not even be there for you. Yes, but I can assure you that we know that this place will outlive all of us.
That's right.
Because it's about social responsibility journalism. Yes.
All right, Mukhtar, coming back to you now, the question, he talked about social responsibility, and of course we've talked about laws, we've talked about ethics that actually guide this profession of ours. How do we strike a balance between being socially responsible and then trying as much as possible not to skirt those laws and ethics that actually guide the profession that we have? How do we try to do that balancing act?
I think the question, for me, I look at that question as saying, how do we exercise our freedom of expression, our freedom of assembly, and also how do we ensure that we don't cause mass disturbance? That's which Section 45 bans. There's a thin line, really. There's a very, very thin line. I agree with that. But for work that you see, for media publications or broadcasts that you see, for most, I'm going to assume, like the station went out of its way to ensure that it got specialist to come and look at the documentary first before all of this was actually broadcasted. I've gone through the NBC codes that were listed by NBC, and I have not seen in any way, like I said, I've seen the documentary to a large part. I've not concluded it, but I have not seen in any way where Trust TV itself actually went against those codes. I don't know what, like I said, I don't know what the background conversation is, what is happening off camera. We're not very certain about where all of this is coming from, but I am hoping that Trust TV should be able to do something about it and address the issue, nip it in the bud, and all of media can actually come together to actually speak up against this, because this is appalling, and I'm hoping that this doesn't really set a snowball effect for other media engagement and these types of journalism, which is what we actually really need in the country at this time.
Before we let you go, Mukhtar, one quick final question. We have seen some very strong positions from the NBCs, not just with the Trust TV. We remember at the time, radio stations have to also stop live call-ins because they were getting fines for what callers were saying on air and all of that. What's your evaluation generally of how this government, I mean, through its instrumentalities like the NBC, had fared with regards to preserving the press freedom?
Personally, I don't think that they've done so well. In all honesty, I think they've really found a way to. They're looking for strategic and innovative ways to ensure that the errors of their ways are not broadcasted, and that we sing praises that are not present, and that is really not. That is not really. It doesn't really bode well for the average citizen who is actually paying attention in the country. The government has just a few months to go before they leave. The bulk of what they do this year, and it's what we are most likely going to remember them for. So if they are watching, I am hoping that they can take this as a form of advice from an average, ordinary citizen in the country to say, please, this is not the time for us to start having issues that are unconstitutional, in the manner of speaking. The right for the press to operate falls within falls under the Freedom of Expression Act, which is Section 39 of the Constitution, and we need to try as much as possible to protect that, because if the press is going to be censored, that means my freedom, the freedom of my children, the freedom of everybody else is actually going to also be censored, and that needs to be checked. So I am hoping that they can actually look inwards, take a reflective outlook on things, because the honest truth is that come May 29, most of them are going to become average citizens as well. And it is not my prayer that they become prey to most of the policies and most of the precedents that they've set. But I am hoping that before it begins to come closer to home, these kind of things can actually be addressed.
Thank you very much, Mukhtar Suleiman, for those insightful perspectives that we have offered as far as the NBC fine on Trust TV is concerned. I hope someday we will come back to you to further explore this topic and look at other dimensions. It's a way of advancing journalism practice in Nigeria. Do have a lovely day.
Thank you very much. You too, please.
Thank you. Back to you in the studio, Malam Hamza, and away from the NBC fines. Another sad news that seemed to be on the newspapers this morning is the killing of Northerners, as 8 of them were beheaded and the heads scattered away yesterday in what appears like a another barbaric incident coming out from that part of the country. What did you make of this when this story got to your table?
Sad. Yes, everyone should be sad that things like this are happening in our country, because the world is watching. Yes, and these people, as you can see, they are Nigerians. They are from the neighboring countries. And if you ask, what did they do? Most of them do menial jobs there, but simply because some people want to embarrass the government, and they want to now, crack our heads, because the essence of this, which many people don't understand, is to provoke what?
Retaliation.
Retaliation, so that the country will go in flames. So it's a passionate appeal to government and the security agencies to really unravel these people everywhere, because it is happening, even in the north. Wherever you go, people kill without any reason, simply because they want to now maybe cause pain to some families, cause pain to people who do not agree with what they feel they must agree with. And that is why you can see we can't even, sometimes we struggle to get soft stories that will appeal to people, that would give, hope. Yeah, but these stories are not there. If you look at the front page of the paper now, look at the northern distance, there, an AIG was ambushed. And this AIG was killed along the same route which former Chief of Air Staff, Alex Bade. Yes, it's along the same route. And from that time, we only got to know of this because this is an equally prominent person. But there are hundreds of ordinary, but there is nothing like ordinary Nigerian. Every life matters, But many have been abducted, their families pauperized to pay, ransom, and some have not been released till date. So it's a serious problem. The Imo incident is not an isolated one. It has been happening. So it's really sad.
We're talking about incidents and of course insecurity generally, and you made a mention of the security agencies, what they can be able to do about it. Well, we're just seeing that the Chief of Air Staff has ordered maximum firepower be deployed and used against these terrorists. Do you think is it coming too late, or will it make any difference now?
But is this the first time? If you go, maybe after this program, we should go to the library here.
Do a content analysis.
If you call Haruna, our librarian, and ask him to now just, chronicle, this kind of directive, I can assure you he will give you like 100. Yes, in the last 7 years, 100. Okay, go after them. Not only from the Chief of Defense Staff, all of them, including the president. How many times has the president given the service chiefs also the marching order? So it's not really new. What Nigerians are expecting is action. And you see, sometimes in warfare, you don't even need to mention it. Let do the action so that people can even say, I will have seen something. Because sometimes by even saying that let's go after them, you are telling them to escape. Yes, now you are giving them signals to escape. I think the best thing is to stop the rhetoric, to do the action, because we know, every other person knows that these are the places that these bandits, terrorists, or whatever are. So just go after them and stop talking. This is the truth.
All right. Well, we hope that this time it will make a difference.
Yeah, we pray.
Yeah, we do.
We pray because you can see the NRC said it will not resume the Kaduna train until and the corridor must be secured, because the corridor is not safe.
Exactly.
Many cells of the terrorists there. So they should go after them so that NRC will say, okay, we know we are safe. Nigerians can start now using the train to Kaduna.
All right. Well, we'll take a look at the Leadership newspaper right now, and it carries this major headline on the front page. After PMB's directive, military begins operation, show terrorists no mercy. That's just something that we finished talking about right now, and that is the major headline on the front page of the Leadership newspaper. Well, we hope that makes a difference. It has riders here: orders commanders to employ maximum firepower. Federal government defends purchase of 1.15 billion naira security vehicles for Niger Republic. FCT gets 2.6 billion naira to buy operational vehicles and gadgets, and destroys bandits camp in Kuje. Bandits ambush AIG, kill orderly in Bauchi, and insecurity dwarfing PMB's achievements, says APC chieftain. Well, these are the riders supporting the major headline on the front page of the Leadership. Talking about something else, OPEC raises Nigeria's oil quota to 1.830 million barrels per day. And another headline here, another war looms as China threatens to attack Taiwan today. Documentary editors ask federal government to reverse 5 million fines on DSTV, TSTV, NTA, and Trust TV. And Katsina government earmarks 3 billion naira for 10 cattle ranches. Details of that can be found on page 26. And on top of the bus head there, at the top of the front page, 129 days after, 34 train passengers still in kidnappers' den. And recuperating, Shibanjo joins FEC meeting virtually. These are the major headlines on the front page of the Leadership newspaper.
Coming to you, Malam Hanza, from the Leadership newspaper, we saw the countdown, the timeline there from Leadership saying 129 days, but we've been seeing pockets of releases, and we've been getting testimonies from some of those that were released. And one of the shocking testimonies, as carried by another paper, was that the train victim, freed train passengers telling us that terrorists have moles across Nigeria. When you saw that story, what does it say to us? Isn't this an intelligence that should be available to the government, for instance?
It is there. Look at what the Deputy Speaker said. How many
Intelligence report. 43.
You see? So this goes to tell you that, look, honestly, there is no incident that will happen in Nigeria without an intel. Nigeria is one of the countries around the world that have, in terms of intelligence gathering, because almost all the security institutions, they have an intel unit. I think it is the utilization that is the problem, utilization of the security report. We don't really use it, and then maybe sister agencies don't really avail themselves to the intel of other agencies. And this revolves around rivalry. But from our interactions, and we've been reporting, fair enough, that the intelligence, even you get it free. You get it free. I don't want to mention name, but there was a governor about 15 years ago telling me that he gets intelligence report before even the security agencies, because he was able to now connect with the downtrodden. He said among his intel people, kosai sellers, meshai, firewood mongers. Now, these are people that live in the society. This governor empowered, he said, in every local government in his state, he has empowered some people in the wards. So nobody will even distort. Sometimes they distort the information before it gets to the top. So he gets the correct information. So sometimes during briefing, if they tell him something, he will just laugh. And before you know, they realize that this man maybe is an invincible person. Yeah, because they were wondering how he was getting his information. So I think beyond what security agencies, they are doing their best in terms of intelligence gathering, but leaders at all levels, from local government chairman, you go to governor, then the president, ministers, and all that, they should have a way of getting an alternative source of information. And unless if they are actually profiting from some of these things, they should be able to use some of these intels to now address the problem, because you don't supposed to be reactive.
Exactly.
Yes, this word, I hate it. We repel. Repel what? Why should we repel? It's better to say we attack. That, okay, after realizing that there's a problem, we attack the issue. Not that we repel. You repel, you are waiting, and the terrorists, they are always there, planning ahead of time to now cause maximum damage. So it's really a straightforward thing. It's not rocket science. We are not getting it right. Yes.
One other story that seemed to be making or rather getting a lot of attention these days, is the forest crisis. Today, with the Daily Trust, we are hearing that funding forest crisis ground indigenous vessels. It's not just with the maritime. We hear even in aviation that foreign airlines are cutting flights to Nigeria because they are unable to even repatriate proceeds of ticket sales.
That they've already sold.
Manufacturers are complaining that they can't even find the dollars to bring in spare parts to keep the plants functional. Foreign direct investors are also complaining that they have invested, dividends have been declared, they cannot repatriate their dividends from the businesses they have done in this country. We seem to be, and then there is a fourth and back between the CBN and the NNPC over what should be responsible for our declining forest crisis. And then in the face of all of this, leadership is also reporting that our benchmark production has been raised to 1.8 million by OPEC. What difference does it make that if they raise the benchmark and because of theft and everything, we are not able to meet it and we are neck deep into this forest crisis? Is there any hope for us, really?
There is hope if there is the will. Yes, this is an issue that can be resolved if those that matter are ready to. You can see we keep borrowing, which I'm sure you are aware. And the more you borrow, because you have to start servicing and all that. So by rising the production, of course, more dollars, right? But what about remittance? Remittance is the most important thing. I was reading yesterday, one African country, increasing the salaries of primary and secondary school teachers is Rwanda by 40. Why? The other country from Africa that also exports oil, they also increase the salary of its citizens, because when the price of crude per barrel went over 100, you now see the gains. But what happens there? Serious crisis. Serious crisis, because first, we don't refine the product here. Yeah. Assuming we refine the product here, meaning enormous gain for us. So, but we take the crude there, and then the money is trapped because we use large part of the money to buy refined oil so that we can come and service the domestic market. So we plunder the gains of sort. But assuming our refineries are working, because we will not get tired of saying this, even after this government, when next government comes, we continue to say it, that fix the refineries. It's a very simple arithmetic. Fix the refineries, let them work, establish industries so that we can also, work on our farm produce so that we only take the process this thing, the dollar will be there. The dollar we can even fix the price of our naira. Am I correct? You are an economist, because if you can fix the price of your currency, because it is the demand of your currency that will determine the patronage. If we have all the things that other countries need, and we say, okay, you have to buy it in our naira, and our naira is at par with dollar or pounds or whatever, people will be willing to.
Absolutely.
We will live with the demand of oil for a very long time.
True.
Forget about talking about green energy or whatever. Many countries around the world are not really ready to transition because they don't have the wherewithal. So what do we need? The fossil fuel, right?
Yes.
So Nigeria should get it right. We still have enormous opportunity to turn around things, to utilize resources from oil, and then take care of our people.
Interesting and deep perspective there. He calls me an economist, but he has spoken like one this morning. We have been talking with the general editor of Daily Trust, Malam or Mr. Hamza Idris, if you like, an expert in many fronts. He has cut his throat in several battlefields, if you like, as far as journalism is concerned. He has brought us very deep insight today, reviewing the papers across various platforms. It's a pleasure to have you join us in the studio.
Thank you very much.
We wish you a very productive day ahead. We will take a short breather here, and when we return, the show continues. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that look like the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
because I have said that